All right. Well, welcome, Hisham, and everyone else, whoever's coming in late. You've got a copy of this to watch a bit later on in your own time and space. Welcoming you to the relationship webinar. So, pretty much, we'll be touching base on a few topics a lot of people struggle with and find it a little bit challenging to go through as a couple. So, first things first is pretty much acknowledgement of our country. So I humbly acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples are the First Nations of this island, the traditional custodians whose connection to country spans thousands of years. With gratitude, I pay my deepest respect to our elders, past, present, and emerging, whose wisdom continues to guide us in truth and reconciliation. Now, as we begin today, there are a few topics that I'll be touching base on. So we've got the listening and understanding, the 6 C's of a healthy marriage and relationship, unpacking the Karpman Triangle, and then some Q&A at the end, roughly 15 minutes. If you have any questions in between, just put it in the chat box. Cass will let me know, and I'll try my best to answer as many as I can. So first things first, listening and understanding. So the majority of women rarely ask their partners for solutions or reactions when they discuss a concern. So they usually want to be able to articulate themselves so that their partner can recognize and sympathize with their situations. Generally speaking, women overthink and have a lot going on and processing in the background, and the way they function and absorb things in life comes across quite different to a male, where there is more logic, reasoning, and solution orientated. And so this is one stage of a beginning of any conflict when things arise with a lot of questions. So the way I wanted to begin this particular webinar, I wanted to open it with something a little bit more lighthearted with a small 1.5 minute video. Now, Hisham, I know you are driving, so I would personally prefer if you could park on one side so you can actually watch the video. If you cannot, that's okay, because you'll get a copy of this recording, which you can watch it later. This video I usually give to my couples as clients, and just to help them understand things at a different level from a male perspective and a female perspective. I think because what tends to happen, not only does a man misunderstand, but a female doesn't realize what she is also doing. And so it can be a little bit confronting in a light way. So the video is here. And if you could park, that'll be good. If you cannot, you'll probably hear the conversation, but the actual image is what plays the whole part of how a relationship may look like. And then we'll unpack furthermore.
No worries.
Okay, there's no volume to that, Cass. Cass, could you hear the volume of it?
No, we can't.
Okay. So what I'll do is, just to make life easier, I'll open it from YouTube and see what happens. Same. Would you be able to play it from your end and share it, Cass?
I will try that.
Didn't test this, did I?
I did.
Do you want me to stop sharing my screen and see what happens?
Yes, I'm going to have to bring up the YouTube link. Can you just actually WhatsApp it to me, please?
Yep. 1 second. Done. Wonder why that happened. That's never happened before.
It's what happens when you want to do things live.
The choice of modern technology, eh?
Yeah, it's great when it works.
When it doesn't, it stuffs up in a big way.
Always. It's got its perks and then it's got its cons. Hence why just face to face is so much easier. But it is what it is. A lot of people struggle to attend certain things because of the schedule and all of that, which is understandable.
Completely understand. I know exactly how that.
Well, you're on the road, so it explains a lot, right?
Absolutely.
How are you going, Cass?
Yep, sorry about that.
Let's see.
Can you see my screen?
Yep. As long as we can hear it as well. No. I can't hear it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Hisham, can you hear anything come through?
No, I can't hear anything.
Hmm.
So strange.
Okay, maybe we just discuss the demonstrate.
Okay. Or what we could do also, just add it in the chat box and then they can watch
Yeah,
it in time because it's only for 1 minute.
yeah, I'll do that
Let's
now.
do that. Okay. Yeah, just share it there. So Hisham, you can watch that in your own time. It's only a minute and a half. So pretty much what this video demonstrates was, let me just open up my presenting screen. So the demonstration of this video is, if you see, there's a nail in a woman's head, literally. And she's discussing how she's got a migraine and she's just talking bubbles everywhere, all over the place. It's very scattered. It's almost like she's catastrophizing the story and it's just getting bigger and bigger while her partner is just witnessing this and trying to point the finger, saying there's something in your head. And at a literal level, it looks like there's something in her head, but it's something internalized that she's not able to really see. She's just feeling. And so every time he comes to say, well, if I could just get close to you and remove this from you, then the pain or these overwhelming emotions could then calm themselves down and go away. And then she attacks and she's like, no, but you don't understand. And the reason why this happens, and it's the beginning of any conflict in any relationship, is because she's internalizing everything, and a male is always the fixer, and when they see something damaged they just want to go and repair it, whereas a female, when she's expressing herself, all she wants in return is to be heard, not to fix, not to repair, nothing. It's just listen to the problem, sit in that space with a bit of empathy, carry it safely, and then after that the nail will just naturally remove itself, as opposed to noticing that there is a problem and trying to pull it out. And that's pretty much where conflict begins in any relationship, whether it's a partner, cohorting in a relationship, or even just work with employees, or just anyone, or family for that matter. It's because we're always there trying to heal them or fix the problem, not realizing some people just want to empty that bag. So that was the demonstration of the video. It's very lighthearted and it's actually very cute. I use it a lot with my couples. And then as we go along, the main foundation, it's been years when I work with clients just to see the patterns and how people align and not align, and they mesh and then unmesh over the years. And I realized that there are 6 fundamentals as a foundation for a healthy marriage or any relationship for that matter. And it starts with the first one, connection with a higher power. And I get a lot of people ask me, what does that mean? Now, I get all sorts of walks of life, whether if there is any belief systems in the background, religions, or anything for that matter. And what I tend to find when there's conflict is when we have 2 partners that began a story of love and fulfillment and all of this, pleasing one another. There's no expectations. And then once they connect and they're inside a roof with one another, what tends to happen that the values they realize within themselves don't align with the other partner. And so when I mention connection with higher power, it's when you can recognize what are our belief systems that align us together that we can pursue. So when we're on a path of conflict or a challenge, that we remember and we can realign that the end conclusion or where we want to go is going to the same, it's going towards the same direction, as opposed to we have completely different belief systems. And when I say belief system, I'll give you an understanding of that. I've had people come through and for instance, somebody that's very Catholic practicing and somebody that's atheist. And now the atheist's purpose in life seems to be a little bit different to somebody that's got a higher purpose in belief systems that's unseen. And so they end up clashing with alignment. So then when we can just get them to compromise, meet halfway with some value system, or understand the other person's value system, accept it for what it is, and then come halfway, then the passage of movement with the relationship starts to progress, and that decline that they initially had with conflict because there was no alignment of values begins to be unfolded in such a way that they can comprehend one another a little bit more deeply. And so I say connection with higher self or higher power sits as a foundation, because when that gets rocky, the relationship also gets rocky. The second part and parcel of this is communication. And this is a part where I find that a lot of partners struggle because there's a push and a pull in the process of breakage of communication. Again, back to that misunderstanding. What tends to happen in communication? There is a model called the 69 model. And the way that looks is you have a partner on the right, a partner on the left, and they're opposite one another. And we've got a six laying down on the floor for one partner. And from that perception, that partner can see the six and adamant it's truthful and that's all they can see. So it's a perception. And the other partner reckons it's a nine. Both partners are correct in the same scenario, in the same conflict, in the same misunderstanding. But the miscommunication is that neither one of the partners are going ahead to walk along the opposite side to see what they are seeing from their point of view. Now, we come with belief systems and values, and we've been instilled with a lot of information, whether it belongs to us or it doesn't, or things that we've accepted over our time of what we do and do not accept, that creates that clash. Our perceptions seem to be very right for us, and they are. There is no one wrong in a conflict. The only issue is that we both hold our guards so high up that it creates the tension, the breakdown of miscommunication. And so the communication breaks down, and then there's no space of repairing. And so when we look at the model of 69, the first things first within that foundation is if we could just walk a mile in the other person's shoe and see things from a different light. And if we're able to do that, then we can unravel things in a model called the X, Y, and Z. The X, Y, and Z, now I don't know if you've heard of it before. Psychologists use this very often. And it's just how you unpack and how you communicate utilizing language. So when we're in a defense mode, we naturally have a higher pitch. And our physiology, since it speaks 80% compared to the 20% of language, is perceived in a negative way. And so the X, Y, and Z technique is a foundation of how to relay the information. So the X is describing the problem. So the other person that's looking at the six while you're looking through the nine, you're allowing them to see it from your view. So when you do so and so, I feel so and so. So the X is when somebody has a problem or when they're doing something, and then the X is describing how I am feeling about it, how it's creating an issue for me, where it's disturbing me. The Y is the explanation of what I really need. And the way this is laid out is when you come in the home and I don't find you at the door to greet me, it creates a feeling of isolation and neglect. I would appreciate, being the Y, if you could just walk to that door and notice me and greet me just to keep me at ease and self-soothe me, and then I won't have a problem. I won't be so frustrated. I won't utilize my ego sometimes as a response unconsciously. And so the X, Y, and Z is a formula that we utilize in that communication model when we look at the 6 C's in a healthy marriage. So that's how you'd break that down. Then the third one is the compromise. Sometimes we don't have all the ingredients in our pantry. So we get home, we're starving, but we don't have everything, and we want to make a certain meal and we want to deliver it. So we get very creative and we start to think outside of that box, and we start to compromise in such a way that it's okay that there's not enough broccoli, but there's something that's green that can compensate it for now. And so in a marriage, what we tend to do when there is a lot of conflict and lack of repair, we start to distort and we separate within one another due to resentment and the lack of repair. So compromise is just bringing back in that creative state and just looking at things again, like the 69 model and like the X, Y, and Z in communication, looking at things from a different light and compromising in a way where we can still deliver something or give something back to that person without expecting anything in return. That cleans up a lot of things for us in that compromising state. Commitment, we look at commitment in the sense of making our other half priority. I learned this over the years of my relationship of 20 years. And sometimes we go off the wagon. Life gets very busy. Families grow. Families have more problems in different ways. And so our commitments change. Our perception to what commitment may look like right now is very different than what it looked like 10 and 15 and 20 years ago. And so when that starts to bubble up and things seem to go off the wagon, things become very how could I say? It could be very tight and rigid, or it can get very loose. And then our commitment to give 100% to the relationship is now faded out because we're focusing more on the children, or we're focusing more on the career, or the money, or a health concern, or something. And now we're having a void in that relationship, and the other partner doesn't feel like they're seen because they don't feel like the person is showing up for them. And so that lack of commitment due to the busy life that we live, especially if you're from Sydney, it's a very large rat race, run, 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 run. And it seems like it never ends. It creates pressure on that marriage. And so what is very important is just noticing your partner and putting them as a priority in front of your needs so they can return that favor. And the way this works, I learned this from Tony Robbins at one point in my life, where he was discussing relationships with his partners and how he fell in and out of relationships, multiple girlfriends, and then before he found his wife, Sage, that he's with now. And he talks about when you first meet someone, what are the first things that you do? You get a fluttering feeling, you're over your head, you're head over heels, you're so deeply in madly in love that you do anything for that person. You'd sacrifice your own self for that person. That's how much love and care and commitment you've put into this relationship. And then you take it to the next level. And let's just call it, you get into the marriage and a larger commitment, and you have the kids. And then one day, this partner that you're willing to do anything for without any expectations tells you to take out the rubbish bin. And then you get the shits because you're tired. And then your partner creates a problem. But I asked you, it's an expectation. This was something you did last time at the beginning of our marriage. What happened? And so this breakdown is because we have now slowed down, and it's almost like now we're expecting the partner to accept us for who we are when we gave them something else at the beginning. But that beginning can consistently continue throughout the marriage, throughout the life, if we keep serving the other partner and in return receiving that service. So we're not worried about what they're going to give us because we're always overfilling their cup, their need. So only naturally they would fulfill our cup and need if we haven't built a lot of resentment during the marriage. But if we have built resentment and there is a gap between my partner and I, then it's about sitting down and remembering, why did I marry you? What were my reasons? What really happened? Was it a arranged marriage that I decided to accept and just accept you wholeheartedly? Was it something that I felt that it was a calling, it was my other half, whatever it is? Go back to the beginning and reapply how you acted 10 times fold moving forward for 40 days. And the reason why they say 40 days is because within 40 days, something happens in our mindset, in our mind frame through the neuro pathways. And we build it like a muscle, and it just becomes a learnt behavior again. And then when we're able to do that, what tends to happen, the opposite partner only naturally comes on board and refills that cup. But it's a great thing to bring it to their awareness, to remind them, well, this is what I did, and I think this is the pressure that it's putting on our relationship now because I'm no longer doing it. And just sitting and having that open communication without taking things personally, and to recommit on the beginning commitments that we did take on board so we can cycle through a cleaner way of cohorting moving forward in the relationship. Then we go drop it down to another level. Another value that needs to be implied is companionship. And when you look at companionship, it's giving the time to do things together. Things like date nights. And when there are a lot of kids involved and, after school curriculum and activities, date nights are hard. So when I say date nights could mean that it's an evening, we're at home, we've made some popcorn, we've made a cup of tea, hot chocolate, and we watch a series together. That could be a date night. It doesn't have to mean that I need to leave the house and I must find a babysitter and I need someone to help me through this process. Absolutely no. Date night could be just the little things that you connect, even if it's just 20 minutes, but once a week. That builds that companionship, that friendship, where you'll find that naturally it gravitates respect. It gravitates the compromise. It allows the other partner to have more of a relaxed emotion to communicate what they might be holding on to or what's holding them back. It allows you always to have also the space to realign your values as the main foundation, the connection with higher power. Where are we at? Explain to me more. Or if we have the alignment of values, but we're not following through, a reminder, can we get back to our values? Can we work through this? Because I think it helps us in our marriage and our commitment and our compromise and our communication with one another. So the date nights can be very helpful in just unpacking things, or sometimes just sitting in silence, just in each other's space, in each other's energy, in each other's just compound of what's going on. The outside world, the noise just drops, and it's just you and them. And so it's really important to build and notice, where am I lacking in companionship? It's a form of friendship. And then we go down to compassion. Compassion, when you're holding compassion for someone, it doesn't look like sympathy. It looks like empathy, and they're two separate things. Sympathy is when you're almost like looking in the content of the problem, which becomes unresolvable for someone because you're focusing on the blame and the shame and the emotion. But then when you look at the empathy side of things, you're carrying a safe space, even if you don't understand it, which reflects back to the video prior to what I was just explaining now. It's just empathizing. I might not understand your needs right now, and it seems that I might never understand, but I'm here for you. I just want to sit in this space with you. And if that's okay, I'd like to hold your hand or lean on your shoulder, or you can lean on mine. Is there anything I can get you? That's the empathy that we utilize through compassion, just sitting in that space. And then that builds resilience in the relationship again. And when we gain the resilience, we're able to provide more service to the other partner. That same service that we provided endlessly before we even got hold of them, where we wanted to marry them. It's like, that's it. They're the first and last partner I ever want in my life. And that brings you back to your root, the beginning of, why did I get with this human being? Why am I even here? What are their core values that I loved so much that I felt was going to improve me or my other half or complete me in my life? And that compassion is held through the empathy that you choose to give when you're sitting in a quiet space or in a talkative space. And as we move along, you might notice here something called the Karpman Triangle. Now, Hisham, I don't know if you've ever heard of this triangle, or anyone that's watching this again, but this is the cycle where it turns into a bit of a dilemma for people. And what tends to happen in the Karpman Triangle is, when we're agitated, and it's been months or years or weeks that we've built resistance in the marriage, resentment in the marriage, high expectations because needs are not met. Whether it's intimate needs, it's emotional needs, it's physical needs, it's just being understood needs. We naturally fall into this triangle. It's just an automatic response. We've all been born with it. However, when we recognize the triangle and when we put ourselves in it unconsciously, we can become more aware of our own inner behavior, because we want to work on us. We want to work on ourselves before we work on someone else, because it's not about them, it's about us. We're the ones that are feeling troubled. If we can recognize this and have the awareness and the understanding and the appreciation and acknowledgement, then we can drag ourselves out of it. Now, when we have that sense of awareness through the Karpman, which I'll explain in a minute, we can also do the same when we notice our partner dropping into the same patterns. We will learn not to entertain it. We will not play any of the 2 or 3 roles. We will not rescue our partner. We'll just let them be until they self-regulate their emotions, and then we'll come back and approach them. And this is how the Karpman works. The persecutor, which sits at the top of the triangle, is the part where we begin to control things. We become the blamers. We're very critical. We're angry, very authoritative, very rigid, and we feel a sense of superiority, where some people like to call it the ego, where the frontal lobe just shuts down and we see only red. And this is the part where our voice, our tempo, our pitch just drives us so mad, so high, that we see red and we cannot see beyond that. Now, when we zone into that, we've just dropped in a Karpman triangle, but it has a ripple effect of negativity to the partner receiving this. The one that's receiving it will drop straight naturally into this pattern, into the victim mentality. Why me? Why are you treating me like this? And they will respond while you're blacked out, or you're having a zone of persecuting because you've built up so much pain or emotions. And so while they're in that victim mentality, they're trying to defend themselves, but then your pitch is getting higher because they're not understanding you, but they've blocked you out. just the way you've blocked them out. So realistically, in this argument, no one's listening. And then someone, one or the two, or sometimes both, cycle through it once you're in this triangle. We drop to rescuer. And what I notice with couples, the one that started in persecution, if it's a male, let's call it, and he's not in tune with his emotions or his feminine energy, he might stay in that peak long enough where the victim that has been sucked into this triangle would naturally just fall in rescuing. Okay, I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can calm you down? Or they'll walk away and come back and try to rescue this person that had an emotional imbalance in that moment. And so what happened is that two of them are in the triangle. One just played two roles. Now, when the persecutor calms down, and they might go into the victim mentality, well, the reason why I did 1, 2, 3 was because of 1, 2, 3. There's no excuse for this type of behavior, but this is the reasoning behind what I'm doing. So I'm explaining myself. Naturally, what would happen, because the one that tried to rescue you, that was a victim, sometimes alleviates and goes up to the persecution and starts to have a high pitch. Tempo changes. But you really hurt my feelings and I don't appreciate it and blah, blah, blah. And now this person is persecuting. This one's the victim. And then the victim turns into the rescuer and says, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it. But now the persecutor is up here in peak. And so what's happening in the Karpman Triangle, a lot of people don't notice that they're actually playing this role almost simultaneously every day in their life. Whether it's in a couple relationship, whether it's with our children, our parents, our siblings, whatever it is. And sometimes when we're sitting on the fence, we're noticing and observing someone playing all three or one or with themselves. If we have that awareness, then we can have that acknowledgement and we won't entertain it. And now, as long as we're not entertaining something that is a persecutor, victim, or rescuer, we're outside of the game. We go back to the 69 model. We can see things from a different light. Now we don't carry things personal. Oh, I know why she's screaming. I can understand that because now I'm not hurt. I'm not the victim. This is painful. Now I'm not trying to rescue because I could see something's going on for this person. So I'm just letting them be. And then I could approach them and say, well, look, it seems to me that you're very overwhelmed. And this is you being calm because they're at a high pitch. When you feel that you're able to have a conversation with me, I'm waiting for you. Now they feel maybe there is a safety that I can calm down and I can come and approach you later on. Or vice versa, when they're in the victim mentality, going back to empathy or sympathy, if you're going to sympathize with them, you dropped yourself into the Karpman Triangle. But if you empathize, you've got so much awareness that you're outside of the Karpman Triangle and you're looking inward and you're holding the space for them, but you're not in the space. So it's a different approach of being in and out of the Karpman. Now, if you find that they're in a rescuing state and they're trying to rescue everything and everyone, and I do everything for everyone, and I'm tired and I'm exhausted, and they're just blabbering, they're actually meshing between rescuing people, exhaustion, and victim mentality because I've had enough. And so they get sometimes into the high pitch of the perpetrator again because they start to lash out at everyone. But it's no one's fault because it's the decisions that they made. But there are other things running in the process, maybe childhood trauma that cornered them in a way where they felt they had a need to push themselves to their limits, beyond their own limits, quite frankly. And so when we look at the Karpman Triangle, the goal is in a relationship to just sit for a minute while I'm having this conversation with you and notice, when do you fall in any of these? When do you find yourself most triggered and frustrated and blaming and shaming and being very critical or targeting your partner, whether it's intentional or non-intentional, and the red just turns up and you become rigid to the point where anything that they say you're not absorbing? Pick up on these cues. When have you done this? What happened to self-regulate yourself to calm down? Did your partner walk away and you were able to calm down? Or when they walked away because they didn't rescue you, you got worse? Or when they dropped in the victim mentality, it brought you back to your senses. What happens with you when you're in one of these states? Notice these cues, because this type of awareness allows you to recognize your own inner patterns when you're creating the triangle and dropping into it, or when someone's created it and they're trying to pull you in to entertain it. And when you're getting pulled in and you have this knowledge, you can acknowledge what to do through that awareness, taking accountability and understanding and taking action. well, I'm not going to entertain this right now. It seems to me that this person is in one of these states. I'm not going to carry this as a burden and take it personal. I'm just going to park it on one side. When this person's calm, I'm going to come back and approach using empathy and trying to see the model from their point of view, the 69, and seeing maybe, you know what, they are seeing a 9 and I'm seeing a 6. They are right. Doesn't mean that their actions are right. The way they carried their actions are right. No, we're not giving an excuse for the actions, but we're trying to understand what is happening with this person. Now, when we can understand that, going back to the previous models here, we can sit in compassion, we can compromise, we can park things with commitment, and then we can recommunicate things through the X, Y, and Z. Well, when you reacted like 1, 2, 3 without being critical, because we're going to re-trigger them, it made me feel blah, blah, blah. Now I'm not being the victim, but this is what happens when you do this. I'm not trying to rescue you, but I'm going to give you a strategy to help me through what I'm going through when you're going through something that's triggering me as well. And then you go, well, when you do this, I would appreciate more because I'm using compassion here now through the communication, the compromise, the commitment that I have in this relationship. And I'll be like, I would appreciate more of understanding. Or when you get to that vault or that level or that misunderstanding, could you just come back down 2 gears and reopen it within a day or two so we don't sleep opposite sides in that bed for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days? I'd like to actually unpack things more sooner. And because it creates more harm and neglect on me and I don't appreciate it. So whatever's going on in the picture, you're just bringing it to the awareness without entertaining the triangle. But after somebody's calmed and they come out of it and they can maybe begin to see your 6 while you are seeing their 9. I hope this is just sort of settling and making a little bit of sense. When we're able to do something like this, we're able to unpack a lot of things in a relationship. We're able to understand not only ourselves, but our partner. And it's not about fixing your partner. You cannot fix anyone. The person that needs repair is ourself. When we're able to repair ourselves enough, we have that demanded maturity that we see things in such a different light that nothing really causes that much pain. It's more compassion. And through compassion, a lot of things can get repaired a lot more easier. And the reason why we say 40 days when you're fulfilling someone's cup, because before you got married, you did that. If you went back to do the same thing and you fulfill the needs of your partner, naturally they will compensate and overcompensate back into the old patterns because all their needs are being met. They're seen, they're heard, supposedly they're understood. They're being filled with love and intimacy and truth and care and understanding, and someone's there for them because that's what we usually do when we meet someone and we want to cohort with them, and that's it. We're courting with them in a way that they're going to be our long-term partner. But then life gets busy. We live in Sydney. We have families. We have children. We have extended families. We have the contamination of the environment and the outside noise that interferes with what we've created. And that's what deters us and pushes us off track. We've just got to go back in time and start at square one. What did we do early on that we can reapply to regather the understanding and compassion and just realign ourselves so we don't fall into this Karpman Triangle and then end up with major issues in our relationship that we need consistent therapy and we still don't understand because we just don't have that knowledge of awareness with how we're also reacting in situations. And so it's very essential that we can see this from different points of view. And even if we do fall into this, because we will fall into this, you know, I'm victim of this. I sometimes prosecute my children where I get into a state, you know, overwhelmed, exhausted from work. I get home, I get a little bit more critical. I'm more on edge. I'm a bit hungry. I need to cook for everyone. I feel like no one understands me. And it's like, everyone just do something. And then they see that. You know, I have one of my children that's a rescuer. Are you okay? Do you want me? What can I do? And then I feel guilt. And I'm like, oh crap, I dropped myself into the triangle. I got to get myself back out. I'm like, no, I'm so sorry. You don't need to do this because you're not my mother. I am your mother. I'm the one that's carrying this family unit, not you carrying it for me. It's not the child's responsibility. And so just capturing yourself, just standing guard on your mind, being that bodyguard and just noticing when you are doing that. And just rectify it, repair it there. No, I'm so sorry. I might be hangry. I'm exhausted, but it's not your fault. I'm sorry. And just sit with that for a minute. Just take a deep breath. and restart whatever it was that you're doing. For instance, in that scenario, I'd go back, I'd usually wash my face with cold water and just realign my nerves. And then I start the cooking and I apologize to everyone and I continue with my day. I don't want anyone to rescue me. I don't want anyone to drop into the victim. And I don't want to prosecute because it's not nice on me. Because being a parent, I end up with that guilt. Oh my God, what did I do? And then we start to overstack things and catastrophize. And now I'm in prosecuting myself. So I'm creating a triangle and putting my own self in it, being my own victim and trying to rescue myself, but it's exhausting. And then that's where addictions and other things start to show up, and depression and anxiety, when people just are traveling inside their timeline of prosecution and victim mentality and all that. And we do fall into it, and it's natural. What isn't natural is when we are oblivious to becoming more aware of the knowledge that we gain through life and the readings and the courses and webinars like this. That's where that's our own ignorance by choice. It's not because someone didn't teach us. No, because we're pulling out our sleeve, we're reaching out for help, but if we're not applying, ignorance is so not bliss. So that covers that, but there is so much more. There's so many layers to each one of these models. There's so many things and dimensions for a relationship to build, and there's so many tools that we can approach and apply. I see that you've got a question or a thumbs up, Hisham.
No, I was just absolutely agreeing with what you were saying in terms of not applying knowledge, that you actually, attending courses and webinars and doing lots of readings, etc. But in that heat of the moment, not being able to check yourself and say, hey, you know what, this is how I need to apply it. So
Yeah.
just being with you there. Yeah.
Yeah. And we fall into that trap. I fall into that trap. Being a therapist myself, every now and then, we're human beings. We don't have perfection. And that's why we're human. We're not animals. And so we have that knowledge and understanding just to keep recognizing. I always tell people, just stand guard on your mind. I fall into mistakes. This is a classic scenario that I did a couple weeks ago about, I came home, I was tired, I was hungry, God knows what was going on with me. I had a lot of pressures in family life and loss and all of that. And it was too much, but it's no one's fault. It's my inner issue. And so I just have to recognize that and provide myself the peace and give myself the space to realign, but just noticing these cues. Now, what I find with couples, when we have two couples aligned with the same values, then they hold each other accountable. And so when somebody falls in the Karpman Triangle, when they've both been educated with it, what tends to happen, nobody can get critical because, hey, I'm just holding you up, just reminding you. You've just dropped in the persecution. So I'm just going to give you some time because I'm not going to entertain you. So now I've become very aware, taken accountability, and I've taken action and I've walked away. Now, when that person's calm, they're going to recognize, and now I didn't take things personal, so I made their life easier. Because if I'm going to hold things personal, they might go through a guilt trip because they don't want to be that way. They don't want to do that. Maybe it's a trait from their history, their childhood, or what they experienced or what they saw. And that's all they know. And they're trying to come out of it, and it's a struggle. And we don't make it easier for them or for ourselves because we guilt trip ourselves. And it's like, oh my God, now I did this. He recognized, but I'm sure he's going to shame me later because we overthink things and we doubt ourselves and we doubt our capabilities. But when we have two couples aligned with understanding on certain models, what tends to happen, we can pull each other. We can say, you know what? Hey, babe, can you hold me accountable if I ever dropped in the persecution? And just remind me, but remind me in this way, using the X, Y, and Z, because people take things to offense when there's been a buildup of resentment. And so we just got to come at it a little bit differently until we clear and repair all damage that have been caused or created that relation and that gap in the middle over the time and the years. And so what's important is, hey, babe, I do drop into persecution. I think it's a pattern from my past or myself or some behavior I picked up. I don't necessarily like it. But when I'm in that state, maybe just wink, clap, do something, find something that works for you, and just let them know. Don't talk to me because I know I've shut down. I probably might increase the heat in my body, my hyperarousal. I will not hear you, but just clap and I'll accept that as an acknowledgement. I'm in there and just walk away. And now they're holding you accountable. And now naturally you'll become aware because you've pre-framed yourself for someone to remind you if you yourself drops into that trap and cannot remind yourself because you've blacked out. And it happens. It happens. And it's just about training. It's about educating ourselves and our partners. Look, I learned this really cool model and it's actually brilliant. And I could do one, two, three. Would you be interested to learn more about it? Because I think it might repair a few things and just help us create a bit of closeness. It might not happen overnight. It's going to take some time of training, but would you be willing or open to the idea? And this is what it looks like. It's just that gentle compassion and that approach and that commitment and just that compromising. Now the partner won't take things personal because we've had a pre-discussion. We've pre-framed how we're going to deal with this. So now I'm not going to get angry and sleep at night, you mother, what you did and what you said and how you hurt. I can't sleep that way. I can't because I know that person is struggling and they made it very clear. And so now I'm going to have so much compassion. Like I want to tap them. You know what? You did a brilliant job. Usually it takes you 10 minutes in temper, but it took you 5. I'm looking forward to seeing that 2 and then 1 and then 0 because you can just negotiate. And so it's just that building, that consistent communication and repairing until we shrink that resentment and remove the expectation. And now we have alignment of a relationship. It's based on respect. And when we have respect, we have a lot of things in a relationship because we're understanding one another. I hope this is making a lot of sense. Now, I'm happy for questions, even yourself, Cass, if you have any questions. And Hisham, if you do, please put your hand up or put it in the chat. Cass will let me know. Or if you want to verbally speak, I'm more than happy to respond.
I know when we, oh, sorry, I was both waiting for it. You go first, Hisham.
No, I was just going to say I didn't have any questions at this time.
Okay. I just know from a female's point of view, when we're getting emotional or we're in that heated moment, and that comes back to you, it must be that time of the month. Like, that is so frustrating. No, it might be or it might not be. That's irrelevant. The fact is, I'm feeling this way. How can I come back and ask, or, obviously, because then I don't want to react to that comment.
So do you find yourself when your partner is telling you, I think because you've got this emotion, it's because it's coming from there, that's creating a reaction or a trigger for you?
Yes.
Usually that state of a trigger is because you feel that your partner didn't understand you. That's all it is. And the reason why, it's because the partner always wants to fix things, the opposite of what we need. What we need is comfort, empathy, and just a space to be held, feeling safe. That's all we need. But when the partner is in the form, well, this is happening because of that, they're being critical, they're persecuting. And so we get agitated and we drop in the victim and that frustration. And later we either want to rescue ourselves or rescue the relationship or then persecute them. It's like, no, it means 1, 2, 3, no. And as you were just saying, no, it could be and couldn't be. That's a critical response. That's a persecuting response. That's not a compassionate response. But when we're in a state of emotional rise or hyperarousal, we don't know how to respond sometimes in a state of calm. It's like, how do you want me to be calm, Sarah, if I'm all emotional? Well, it's not about you being calm. It's about teaching your partner to help you regulate that calm. It's to remind you, well, the X, Y, and Z. Hey, babe, when I'm a little bit emotional and I can get a bit chaotic and overwhelmed with my own thoughts and I do all weird things and say a lot of things that don't make sense and I probably overwhelm you because I know males don't like to be overwhelmed with too many words. Can you just do something, find something that works, tap me on my shoulder, or maybe give me a hug. Just break it for me. Just do something for me. And don't worry about what I said. Just ignore it because I'm telling you, I'm talking rubbish. And don't put comments because they're very offensive. Please don't do that. I would appreciate that you actually do something else. Give me a kiss on the forehead, hold my hand, tell me, you know what, I bloody don't understand you, but I'm just happy to be here with you. Just give him some strategies to use to help you calm so you come out of your own state. Because when you're persecuting, when you're feeling attacked, you're in the triangle.
Yeah.
You're in the triangle. Does that answer your question? You feel like it needs to be unpacked more?
No. That's great. Yeah.
Cool.
So, Sarah, how do you and your partner, if you've both been in, the cycle of resentment where you both are basically sitting in that triangle where, you both are basically portraying the role of persecutor. How do you break that sort of cycle? Where the both of you are, she says something, you get angry in relation to what she's saying, and then it just becomes a sort of a tit for tat ongoing battle of wits between the two of you. How do you actually try and break that cycle?
Okay, the question is, what's your highest priority in the relationship? That would be my first question to yourself and to your partner. What do you want? What is your priority? Do you want to make this relationship work? That would be my first question. Is my relationship the top priority before my career, before my children, before my family? Is this my priority? If this is my priority, and I'm asking this question, we go back into the connection to higher self or higher power. These are my values. Are we aligned? That's the first thing, just to see, do we have alignment? If my partner is in that persecuting state and turning around saying, yes, you are priority, but I hate you right now. Well, clearly you are priority, but my brain has built too much pain. Okay. So, okay, we've got alignment, but we're scattered in it. So that'll be good just to see, where are we at together right now? Are we on the same page? If we're on the same page, you've both built so much resentment from what I'm hearing, or maybe a lot of conflict over the years, the tit for tat. I would sit down. Somebody has to be the bigger person. There's always one person that has to break the ice. It can't be two. When there is a big ball of ice somewhere, somebody has to start picking through it. And when that someone picks through it, it motivates the other person to do the same. Who is that person who initiates it? The female, male? It doesn't really matter. You're doing this right now. So you could probably initiate, hey, you know what? I did this seminar and I realized that we're doing tit for tat. It's exhausting. I'm not liking it. It's creating more pain, more trauma, more distance. Lack of intimacy could also be drawing further apart from us because there's a lot of physical frustration in the body. So that, just to give you a heads up, also brings a lot more critical thinking and a response that gets very if it's received like an attack. It's because our needs haven't been met, and that's because of buildup of resentment. But then the intimate moves, and then there's more resentment because there are needs not being met. So this is one big part and parcel of a relationship struggle. So these are the things that you might have to just create a bit of a release there, if you could, if you're open to the idea, and then start working on the communication breakdown. Hey babe, you know what, I hear you, and this is you parking your personal needs on the side for a minute and just hearing her. What is it that I'm saying that's triggering you? Because I know what's triggering me. Because when I say something and then you say that back, it's creating chaos. I can see that. But explain to me specifically what is going on. What have I said or done that has created you pain? So now it's not about you. I've parked myself on the side. I really want to sit with this person, be their therapist. What is it? But when you're in that space, you're going to have to keep an open mind. The defense and getting offended needs to be parked, because it's not about what I'm about to receive about me. It's about what are they receiving within them that's causing them pain that I can ease. Because if I can ease their pain, automatically they're going to learn how to ease mine. Does that make sense, Hisham?
Absolutely, because one thing that I've really, really struggled with is that in that moment, the things that I'm hearing, I'm taking offense to it, and that's making me feel more defensive. And then I feel the need to basically defend myself, and I feel the need to defend myself in that moment without actually stepping back and saying, okay, look, it's not about me right now. Let me park me to the side. But then it becomes more ego driven from a male egocentric sort of perspective, and then I feel the need to say, oh, well, look, you telling me this now, so I've got to tell you that now. And it starts off usually with something small, but then it starts to escalate and snowball into something that, like as explained earlier, where it just becomes a tit for tat sort of, ongoing battle.
It sounds, that's very natural, by the way, to happen because there's been a lot of, let's just say, conflict and lack of repair. So imagine that you have a swimming pool, just as an example, just to give you a classic example, if you own one. I don't own one myself, but just as an example, I wouldn't want to own it because that's a big commitment there as well.
Absolutely is.
Okay, so I'm presuming you've got a swimming pool. Great. I'm not interested in one. I've got a partner and that's enough. The swimming pool, there's chlorine, there's a filtration, there's testing, there are machines. There is color sometimes. There's magnesium. There's salt. There is so many ingredients involved to a swimming pool. Yes or no? A lot, right?
Yeah, spot on.
Okay.
Not that I've got a pool, but my neighbors do, and my kids swim at the neighbor's pool, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
There's a lot. And there's a lot of frustration on the male that usually is the one that goes and gets this prepared and gets very exhausted with the whole ordeal. It costs a lot of money too. It costs a lot of time away from the family when you're trying to clean up a pool just to get two people to swim in it once a year. Okay. So there's a lot going on for a pool. Look at the pool for a minute as your relationship. Over the years, if you haven't cleaned the filter system, but you've put the chlorine, but you haven't measured how much chlorine was enough, because if you put too much chlorine, that's a high level of contamination. If you lack chlorine, there's going to be a lot of fungus. So you're going to find ugly things come out of that pool. If you're not cleaning the filter system, but you're doing the right chlorine, then it's also going to need consistent more work, more effort, because there's something else not being attended to. Okay. So a relationship could be like a swimming pool. If she's over contaminating it with chlorine because she's trying to overcompensate with something that she's not receiving, maybe even it's not in the relationship, could be from her past, but the relationship has brought it to surface. And then here you are, be like, no, you're putting too much chlorine. This is rubbish. The tit for tat thing. I got to clear it. And now I add a lot more, I don't know, salt or diffuser where it just breaks it down. The pool's going to look like shit. That's the relationship breakdown. And so, can I repair the swimming pool overnight? Absolutely not. Can I turn the water from green to blue again overnight? No way. How long does it need? Well, it depends how much time and effort I'm going to choose to give it to repair it so it can be ready to swim in. Listen to what I've said, to swim in. And when I say swim in, because while I'm preparing it, no one can use it because it's not safe, because there's damage. And so when I'm in a repair mode of a relationship, the other side, which is the partner, which is the swimming pool, doesn't feel safe. Until that we can build the trust and the safety through all the repairs that we're filling it up and cleaning it up and giving it its time, the 40-day challenge that I was talking about, then it'll be ready to swim in. And that's where we can flourish. And then that's where we can reap the rewards. Because when our swimming pool is clean and we've repaired it and it doesn't have any issues and there's no more contamination and we jump in, we both can swim. We're both inside now because of all the hard work and effort I put. Even though my partner's in the background not helping, it's okay. It's not about you. I'm gonna make this work. I'm gonna find a way. Yeah, I'm exhausted. I don't have enough fuel. Okay, I'm gonna work an extra hour to get that extra income to go down to Clark Rubber to get the chlorine, and I'm gonna come and do it. Now the partner isn't seeing this. We sometimes run the line. Oh my God, the victim, look, I'm doing all of this and she's not appreciating. Well, she cannot appreciate. The pool is still not ready. It hasn't been cleaned from all the contamination, the buildup, the fungus, which are the outside noise, the family, the dramas, the things that we've built up over the years, the conflict that we didn't know how to repair. So there's a lot going on. There's too many corners, right? And so if we give ourselves the space of 40 days of recognizing when we're dropping into this, or when our partner is dropping into the Karpman Triangle, and not make it about us and just recognize, oh, sugar, my ego's coming up. I'm about to go for an attack. Well, all I'm doing is putting more crap in that pool. I'm just making it worse, which will eventually end up as a divorce. Very unnecessary, because I didn't stop and look, oh my God, because it's gone so dark that I can't see what else I'm putting in there, because you can't see, because it gets so fogged up that you don't know how much crap you're still putting. It all looks the same. But actually, it takes longer to repair the more that we prolong holding things within ourselves, personal, and we're carrying this heavy bag of pain and resentment and hate and all this stuff. And so the pool gets so dark that we don't realize that we're actually adding so much more that it takes us longer. So it's not going to repair overnight. You're not going to swim in it overnight. Absolutely not. But you can begin cleaning it overnight. You can become more aware that, okay, what color is my pool? How long have we had this problem for? 1 year, 10 years. Okay. When did it initiate? What's the root of it? Because all this tit for tat is not your problem. I'm guaranteeing you right now that is actually not your root. There's something a lot deeper that's caused the pain, and these are just the surface parts. They're not the real parts. That is definitely not what your conflict is about. Your conflict is about somebody felt not heard, did not feel safe. Usually the males felt like they're not needed and they don't like to be criticized. And if a woman's criticizing a man or a man doesn't feel he's needed in that house, he starts to open up his peacock and surrender in that persecution. And if a woman doesn't feel she is wanted and heard, then we're having conflict in just two of these scenarios. And that could be the root where it triggered something for someone and escalated. And now these are just the small little perks, but they're not the main. These are the pity things. If we park them all and we don't take things personal and just dive straight in, get to the root of it, open up that chlorine area, take out the whole filter, because that's where the root is. Because if I'm just going to keep cleaning the outside of the pool and putting the chlorine on the outside, but my filter system is still dirty and I haven't changed the actual whole filtration because it's horrible, then I'm not doing anything. That's surface base. I need to go deeper. So the depth is, what are our values? What do we really want? What's my highest priority? Do I really want to make this relationship work? Yes or no? Both of us. That question needs to be asked. Do I really, honestly, sincerely, do I sincerely love this person enough that I'm going to find a way to make it work? Regardless of my ego-driven, centric-driven, my childhood, my triggers, whatever. Parking all of these on this. Do I really want this? Can I see myself living without this person? In 5 years' time, where would my life look without this human being? Asking yourself these questions and asking these questions to your partner helps you unravel and unpack your values again and creating that alignment. Now, when you do that, there's one person, as I said, that will have to begin picking up that snowball. There's one person that has to put that more effort to create a repair. The one person, doesn't matter who. But when that one person begins, the other one tags along. Because when the swimming pool is fully cleaned within 40 days, let's give it, what happens? Everyone wants to jump in. Do you know why? Because it bloody looks so appetizing. It's crystal clear. The sun ray is like shining on it. And now everyone, the neighbors, what are you doing? There's something different. The pool looks different. And that's your relationship. Wow, you guys are turning up so different. People now are wanting to get some answers. Something looked ugly before, but it looks so pretty. Give us some tips. And now people want to learn from you. But it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes yourself to park the pain, the offense, the defense, just holding things personal. It's up to you to recognize, oh my God, this is really doing something inside, and I just want to pull her apart. No, it's not about me. It's about her. Because someone has to start. Okay, if it's about her, then I can't hold anything. And if I'm not holding anything, I'm starting to clean that filter. Because it's not about me, it's about her. Because if I clean it, we're both going to swim in it. Somebody's going to initiate. And somebody's going to do more than 50%. There's no such thing as 50-50. Whoever says that, I don't agree. So it's not true. There will be a balance between sometimes 60, 40, 50-50, but it will never be consistent. It will always mix and match depending on the level of where we're at, our stresses, and where we are in life. Does that answer your question, Hisham? Hey, Cass, you unmuted yourself.
I did. We're about
Oh, wow.
time. And I'll never look at the pool the same way. I'll appreciate it so much more now.
Takes a lot of effort. I don't want one. No,
It
thanks.
does. Well, I've got one if you want it.
My husband wants one. I'm like, it's enough. We have you.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We'll just go to the last page. We'll wrap up. Hisham, if you want to know more, if you would like to do any of our larger trainings or courses or workshops, there's the Intertwined Souls. It's on between the 2nd and the 3rd of May. You could come. It's for couples. You can come on your own or with your partner. It's actually at 50% off right now until the 23rd. You also have an option to buy a book that I published a couple of years ago. It's about relationships. It's got a lot of what I've just discussed and a lot more depth. in-depth activities that you can do one-on-one if you didn't want to go and do one-on-one therapy just to start off, when you just want to know which filtration system and chlorine you want to buy, you can start with the book. We also have a few other workshops coming up. We've got Remodel Your Life, that's for females. You might want to introduce that to people that you might know. The Unleash the Woman Within, that's a day workshop that just empowers women to just get back into their state and themselves. So if you are interested in anything, please take a screenshot of this, or you can scan the QR code and utilize it later. It's just up until the 23rd of April.